Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. After 32 years of unwavering loyalty, I found myself reborn into my past life. Back then, I had been deeply dissatisfied with my marriage. Right after the wedding, my husband Ethan abandoned me, quit his job, and shifted his focus to business. I believed that every human heart was made of flesh and blood. If I treated him well, surely one day he would return to me with genuine sincerity. I took care of his family, even tending to his bedridden parents for over 22 years. But in the end, I discovered that Ethan had secretly built a warm and happy family with his first love behind my back. Heartbroken, I confronted him, tears streaming down my face, demanding to know why he had betrayed me. He looked at me with mockery, as if I were a lowly, filthy creature discarded on the ground. "Emily, did you really think I would remain faithful to a woman like you? Someone uneducated and uncultured? Do you think I would guard my virtue like a precious gem for someone like you?" He sneered. In that moment, my heart shattered. It turned out that my entire life had been a joke in his eyes. Reborn into this life, I no longer sought to cling to him. I would walk my own path. When I opened my eyes, I was greeted by the glaring red character for double happiness on the wall. The calendar hanging on the white wall had been torn in half, clearly marking the date June 22, 1977. My heart ached as I realized I had been reborn on the very day I married Ethan. I knew that tomorrow morning he would announce his decision to quit his job at the mechanical company to pursue business, a decision that would change the course of my life. In my previous life, after quitting his job, he secretly built a fashion business with his first love, Isabella, eventually becoming a tycoon in the clothing industry. They rekindled their old flame, leaving me to bear the title of the Ethan family's daughter-in-law while I remained faithful for 30 years, caring for his paralyzed parents who were harsh and demanding. The thought of it made my heart ache intensely. In my past life, I had worked like a slave for the Ethan family, only to be trampled and despised by them in the end. I had been a fool, but not anymore. This time, I would let Ethan and his first love have their happy ending. Let the virtuous Isabella, with her delicate hands untouched by water, take care of his parents who would soon be bedridden. I no longer wanted to bear the title of the good daughter-in-law. Knowing that Ethan wouldn't return home tonight, I made my bed and slept peacefully, free from the anxieties that had plagued me in my previous life. The next morning, as soon as I opened the door, I saw Ethan and his parents already sitting in the courtyard, as if they had never left the house. At 22, Ethan's face still carried the youthful enthusiasm of a young man. His sharp, bright eyes and handsome features could stir any young girl's heart. But when he saw me, his brows furrowed, and his always smiling eyes now held a warning. I felt a pang of emptiness, though my heart told me I no longer loved him or cared for him. The habit of following him with my eyes seemed ingrained in my bones. I lowered my head and chuckled self-deprecatingly. This habit was truly not good. Starting today, I would abandon it. I knew he was afraid I would tell his parents about him not being home last night, but I had decided to cut ties with him and wouldn't cause any more trouble for myself. Besides, even if I told them, it wouldn't matter. Ethan's parents had never sided with me. They believed that a girl like me from a rural background was already climbing too high by marrying into their family. Enduring a little hardship was nothing. When Ethan's parents saw me, their faces immediately darkened. I knew this difficult couple always deliberately made things hard for me, trying to assert their authority as in-laws. Having decided to set clear boundaries with Ethan, I didn't care much anymore. Smiling, I walked past them and said, "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry for waking up late. Let me go make breakfast." Ethan's mother snorted coldly. "What's the use of marrying a wife if she sleeps until midday on the first day? Do you want this old woman to starve to death? Ethan, you need to discipline your wife better." In his heart, Ethan was probably too afraid to speak up. His mother continued to mock me with a few more sarcastic remarks before finally letting me go to the kitchen. Throughout the entire process, I kept my head down and didn't say a word. Seeing me like this, Ethan's eyes were filled with surprise, as if he couldn't understand why I didn't seize the opportunity to complain. Wasn't I the one who always cared about him the most? If he came home even a little late, I would make such a scene that the entire neighborhood would know. But now I didn't care about him at all. As I cooked in the kitchen, I could feel his probing gaze lingering on me, refusing to let go. Sure enough, during breakfast, Ethan announced his shocking decision. "Mom, Dad, I want to quit my job and go into business with Brother Jack." As soon as the words left his mouth, his father's face turned purple with rage. "Have you gone mad? You have a stable job as a worker, and now you want to throw it away for business? Do you know how many people out there are fighting for a bowl of rice from the state? You finally secured a stable position, and now you want to run off with that Brother Jack from Guangdong? He's nothing but a smooth-talking swindler. How can you trust him?" Ethan, hearing his father's words, was visibly displeased. Brother Jack was introduced to me by Isabella, my high school classmate. How can he not be trustworthy? "Dad, if you don't know the whole story, don't speak nonsense." His father was furious. "Isabella is just a kid. What does she know? How can she introduce you to a reliable person?" Seeing his father speak ill of the person he loved, Ethan lowered his head, his face sullen and unhappy. His mother quickly tried to persuade him. "Ethan, don't be impulsive. Business, a stable job is precious. Besides, you and Emily just got married. How can you have time to go out and do business?" Hearing his mother mention me, Ethan glanced at me with disdain. "What does getting married have to do with it? Does getting married mean I can't pursue my career anymore? A real man can't be held back by a woman. Mom, Dad, look around. Everyone is turning to business. Those who succeed live in big houses. If I don't seize this opportunity, it might be too late." As he spoke, he glared at me resentfully. "Emily, I'm warning you, don't drag me down. If you do, I'll hate you for the rest of my life." I chuckled coldly in my heart. This time, I had no intention of persuading him. If he wanted to go into business, let him. It had nothing to do with me. In my past life, I had listened to his parents and tried to dissuade him from partnering with that Brother Jack, whom his first love had introduced. As a result, he had always held a grudge against me, blaming me for ruining his chance to get rich. Although it was later proven that Brother Jack was a fraud and everyone who followed him went bankrupt, Ethan had never let go of his resentment. This time, I would let him do as he pleased. I was just an ordinary person, incapable of changing someone else's fate. I wanted to see if, after being betrayed by Brother Jack, whom Isabella had introduced, their love would remain as strong as before. Would they still sigh and say that Isabella was his soulmate and benefactor? With that thought, I put down my chopsticks and calmly said, "Mom, Dad, I support Ethan's decision." 3 voices of disbelief rang out simultaneously. I paused for a moment before continuing. "Ethan is an adult. I trust that he has thought this through. Besides, times are changing. There's nothing wrong with going into business." As soon as I finished speaking, the entire Ethan family stared at me as if I were a ghost, especially Ethan, who had been working in the city for half a year. Ever since meeting his fiancée, I had been clinging to him, wanting to be by his side every moment, watching him closely. He couldn't understand why I would suddenly agree to let him go into business. But before he could figure it out, his father slammed his chopsticks on the table and roared, "I said no, and that's final. No one is to bring this up again." I was surprised. This time, without my persuasion, Ethan still couldn't go. After his father angrily left the table, his mother sighed and stood up, leaving me and Ethan sitting in silence at the dining table. After a long while, he suddenly looked at me and sneered. "Emily, don't think I don't know what you're up to." I looked at him, puzzled, unsure of what he meant. Before I could voice my confusion, he quickly answered, "You've only been in the city for a short time, but you've already learned a lot of tricks, haven't you? Using retreat as an advance, not bad. You deliberately supported my decision to quit my job and go into business, but in reality, you wanted to provoke my father's anger so he would." "Stop me right there, Emily. You're becoming more and more disgusting. I'll never like you." His eyes were filled with hatred, reminding me of the day I died in my past life. Back then, Ethan had looked at me this same way. I pinched my palm hard to suppress the bone-deep pain in my heart. Calmly, I looked at him and said the words I had wanted to say since I realized I had been reborn. "Ethan, let's get a divorce." His voice immediately rose sharply. "What did you say?" I suppressed the pain in my throat and repeated seriously, "I said let's get a divorce. I know you've always looked down on me. You've studied up to high school and are a city youth, while I'm just a country girl who only graduated from elementary school. I thought it through. Using a marriage to bind two people so far apart is unfair to both of us. Since that's the case, why not part ways peacefully? Ethan snorted coldly. So you finally realize you're not worthy of me. At least you know your place. But the next second, he frowned tightly and looked at me with annoyance. Emily, I don't know what you're plotting, but you want a divorce? Even a ghost wouldn't believe you. Is this some kind of joke? Is it fun to play around like this? Hearing this, I immediately looked at him intently. I'm not joking. I'm serious. If you don't believe me, we can go to the Civil Affairs Bureau right now and complete the divorce procedures. Ethan grew even more suspicious, as if trying to see through my heart. I met his gaze without flinching, my eyes calm and steady. Yes, I want a divorce. I want to leave the Ethan family that caused me 30 years of suffering in my past life. I also want to see if Isabella can do better than me after she marries into the Ethan family. My expression was perfect, without a single flaw. Ethan couldn't find any weakness. He averted his gaze and sneered. Fine, I don't care what you're up to, but these words came out of your own mouth. We'll get a divorce immediately. Whoever changes their mind later will die a miserable death. His words pierced my heart like a knife, but fortunately, I no longer needed him. Moreover, I truly wanted a divorce. How could I possibly change my mind? Ethan was clearly afraid I would back out. As soon as he put down his chopsticks, he hurriedly dragged me to the Civil Affairs Bureau. When the procedures were completed, he held the divorce certificate like a treasure, his face radiant with joy. I didn't expect you to really go through with it, Emily. You've really changed. I smiled self-deprecatingly. I haven't changed. I just no longer have feelings for you. That's all. Ethan, overjoyed, didn't mind that I didn't respond. He happily said, Emily, since you were the one who initiated the divorce, when you go back to pack your things later, you have to tell my parents the same thing. Don't go behind my back and cause trouble. I nodded. Don't worry. I'll take responsibility for what I've done. Ethan hugged the divorce certificate and ran off ahead. Watching him leave, I knew he was heading to the department store where Isabella worked to share the good news. He was truly devoted to Isabella. It was just a pity that his parents didn't like her. They thought she was too cunning and not easy to control, which was why they had insisted on marrying him to a girl from the countryside who had no backbone. Now that I was out of the picture, they could finally be together. As soon as I returned home, Ethan's mother saw me and sneered. Emily, you finally decided to come back, sleeping until midday on your first day as a daughter-in-law. If I had known you were such a lazy, spoiled brat, I would never have allowed you to step foot in this house. It was always like this no matter which life I lived. This old woman only knew how to bully me, relying on her status as a mother-in-law. Even in my past life, when I had worked like an ox taking care of her and Ethan's father after they were paralyzed in a car accident for over 22 years, she had never given me a kind look. The slightest dissatisfaction would result in beatings and scoldings. But now, I was no longer the Ethan family's daughter-in-law, and I wouldn't endure her unreasonable anger anymore. I knew that many people in the neighborhood were eavesdropping on our conversation, so I looked her straight in the eye and retorted, Aunt Lou, has the Ethan family not eaten yet? It's 10 in the morning. How can you eat so early and then eat again? How many meals do you have in a day? I don't know about you, but the rice bucket in this house definitely can't hold that much. The onlookers who had been waiting for a show burst into laughter. Rose's face turned crimson, and her hand trembled as she pointed at me, furious. Emily, how dare you call me a rice bucket? You have no manners and you dare to call me Aunt Lou? You really are a country bumpkin with no upbringing. If I had known, I would have let Ethan marry Isabella. She graduated from high school and has more refinement than a lowly country girl like you. Why don't you kneel and apologize to me? Otherwise, you'd better prepare yourself for a divorce from Ethan. Seeing Rose's arrogant demeanor, I couldn't help but laugh. She probably thought I was still the weak orphan girl from my past life, who would let her bully me as she pleased. I coldly said, Aunt Lou, there's no need to trouble yourself. We've already decided to get a divorce. With that, I took out the divorce certificate and showed it to her. See? We've just completed the divorce procedures. I'm no longer the Ethan family's daughter-in-law, So things like cooking, washing, cleaning, and serving my in-laws, please find someone else to do them. Rose's eyes widened and her mouth hung open. What? You two really got a divorce? Well, good for you. You dare to divorce my son? Let's see if anyone will want you now. Ethan's father, hearing the commotion, also came out. He took the divorce certificate from me and examined it carefully. The bright red seal on the paper was unmistakable, telling the couple that this was absolutely real. He looked at me as if I couldn't believe it. Emily, did that brat Ethan force you into this? I shook my head.
Seriously, no.
It was my own decision. Ethan doesn't like me. Even if we stayed together, it would only lead to tension and resentment. Uncle Lou, thank you for honoring the marriage agreement you made with my parents and bringing me into your family, but we're really not suited for each other. I'm not cut out to be the Ethan family's daughter-in-law. I'll pack my things and leave immediately. With that, I brushed past them and returned to my room. I only had a few belongings, which I quickly packed before leaving the L household. After my parents passed away, I had been alone. When I married Ethan, there had been no wedding ceremony or dowry. When I came to the city to live with the Ethan family, I had only brought a few sets of clothes. Now as I left, I still only had those few sets of clothes. It was incredibly convenient. As I reached the gate, Rose suddenly grabbed my hand and pulled me back. You can't leave. If you go, who will do the housework? For the past 6 months, I haven't lifted a finger. Now that it's cold, I don't want to cook or do laundry. That's why I'm reluctant to let you go. Unfortunately, I no longer wanted to be a free nanny for the Ethan family. I pulled my hand away and pointed at Isabella, who had just arrived with Ethan. Aunt Lou, didn't you say I was uneducated and uncultured, unworthy of being your daughter-in-law? Well, look, your good educated and cultured daughter-in-law has arrived. Don't miss out this time. Seeing Isabella, Rose's eyes lit up. Isabella, why are you here? Isabella, looking embarrassed, said, Auntie, I heard that Ethan and sister Emily got divorced, so I came to offer some advice. Rose sneered. What's there to advise? Divorce is the right decision. Educated people like you are so kind-hearted, unlike some lowly people who like to put on airs. I thought she was gentle and obedient, but who knew she was so sharp-tongued and cunning? On the very first day, she acted like a lady, but she's not even worth a finger compared to you. Hearing Rose's words, I could see the smugness flash in Isabella's eyes. Ethan's expression was deep and unreadable. He looked at me and asked, Where are you going? Before I could answer, Rose snapped. Where she's going is none of your business. Someone as uncultured as her deserves to die on the streets. Don't just stand there, Ethan. Take Isabella inside. Rose smiled warmly at Isabella before turning back to glare at me. Why are you still here? It's too late for regrets now. I'll never allow Ethan to take you back. I looked at her arrogant, barking figure and initially wanted to kindly warn her and Ethan's father to stay indoors if they didn't have any urgent business in the coming days, but it seemed that wasn't necessary anymore. If people didn't want my kindness, there was no need to force it. It was better to respect their fate. I carried my luggage out of the alley and began my new life. I had already thought about where I should go in my past life. I knew Ethan looked down on me for being uneducated and coming from the countryside, so I had used my spare time to attend night classes, trying to make up for the education I had missed. I had even planned to take the college entrance exam, but the night before the exam, Ethan's parents were involved in a serious car accident and became completely paralyzed, requiring constant care. Because I had to take care of them, I had to give up on my dream. Now no one could stop me anymore. I used the $10 I had saved from doing odd jobs to rent a room near the night school. During the day, I sold melon seeds, popsicles, and soda in front of the movie theater. At night, I attended classes, frantically catching up on the knowledge I had missed. In truth, even in my past life, despite the hardships of caring for Ethan's parents, I had never given up on studying, especially English, which I loved dearly. So studying was never a burden for me. Now I just had to wait for the college entrance exam half a year later. My days became increasingly peaceful and beautiful since many people didn't want to engage in the shameful business of selling goods. I had almost no competition. My stall in front of the movie theater was practically unique. In this era, where the average monthly salary was only a few dozen dollars, every day I earned over $10 to $20. Seeing my savings grow, I finally understood why Ethan had been so eager to go into business in my past life. Business really could make a lot of money. It was just that in this life, without me stopping him, I wondered if Ethan and Isabella had partnered with that swindler Brother Jack. I quickly got my answer today when, as I was selling goods in front of the movie theater as usual, I suddenly heard a familiar voice. "Sister Emily, you've set up a stall here." I looked up and saw a girl in a white dress buying soda from me. It was indeed Isabella. She pretended to be surprised. "Sister Emily, I thought you had gone back to the countryside. I didn't expect to see you selling things here. Life must be really hard for you now, right? Standing here to earn money, but how much can you make? A popsicle is only 5 cents. Why don't you join me and Ethan in selling clothes? We're short of a salesperson." Only then did I notice Ethan and Brother Jack standing behind her. It seemed that in this life, without me, Ethan had indeed gone into business with Brother Jack. Ethan frowned when he saw me. "Why are you here doing this? Don't you know how embarrassing this is?" I was a little stunned. I truly hadn't expected Ethan's vision to be so narrow. I had thought he was different from ordinary people. After all, in this era, it took courage to give up a stable job and go into business to make money. I had thought he had a sharp eye and more courage than most, but it turned out his vision was ultimately limited. I wondered how he had managed to succeed in my past life. Maybe he was just lucky. I calmly said, "I'm not stealing or robbing. I'm earning money through my own efforts. Why should I? Should I be embarrassed?" Ethan was speechless. He snorted coldly. "A few days apart, and you've become so sharp-tongued. It seems someone can't keep up the act anymore and has revealed their true nature." Isabella quickly interjected. "Ethan, don't be so harsh. Sister Emily, if you have time, don't forget to come to our wedding next month." So they were really getting married. Hearing this, my heart didn't stir at all. Ethan, hearing Isabella mention the wedding to me, frowned even more. "Isabella, why are you telling her about this? If she really comes, it'll be bad luck." Isabella hurriedly scolded him. "Ethan, how can you say that? Sister Emily will be heartbroken." Ethan glared at me but didn't say anything more. I smiled. "Ethan is right. If I really come, you might indeed have bad luck. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding. As for the wedding banquet, I'll have to decline." Isabella, hearing this, was even more pleased. Her purpose today had been achieved. She politely said a few more words before leaving with Ethan and Brother Jack. I watched their retreating figures and calculated the time. Brother Jack would probably soon reveal his true colors. I hoped he wouldn't act too quickly. If he delayed their wedding, it wouldn't be good. I wondered if, after being scammed, they could remain as harmonious as they had been in my past life. Time waits for no one. The money I earned continued to grow. Not only did I sell snacks to moviegoers, but I also noticed the idol-worshipping tendencies of young people and prepared many photos and posters to sell to them. My business became even better. One evening, as I carefully counted my earnings, I found that I had saved up to $822. With a little more effort, I could become a $10,000 tycoon. Seeing so much money around me, I almost cried tears of joy. In my past life, I had been a free nanny for the Ethan family, never having more than $220 to my name. Even when Ethan became a big boss, he never thought to give me any living expenses. In their eyes, I was just a tool, someone who didn't need to shop or have hobbies, but I was also a human being. Now I could rely on myself to earn so much money, and in the future I could earn even more. Finally, I could buy the things I liked. On the weekend, I made an appointment with Lily to go shopping. She was my desk mate at the night school, a lively and quick-witted girl who got along well with me. Lily held my hand and jumped around excitedly. "Emily, you have to buy a few dresses later. You have such a good figure. It's a waste not to wear dresses." I touched the thick wallet in my pocket and smiled. "All right, I'll listen to you." At that time, the place where people usually bought clothes was the department store, but the clothes there were all old-fashioned and not popular with young people. On our way to the department store, we passed by a clothing store that was doing very well, with people coming and going. Inside, the store was packed. The store was filled with trendy bell-bottom jeans and beautiful floral dresses. This was the recently famous Golden Phoenix clothing store. Lily excitedly pulled me inside. As soon as we entered, I ran into my former mother-in-law, Rose. She was stunned to see me but quickly raised her voice. What are you doing here? Can you afford these clothes? Get out. Don't take up space. Can't you see the store is crowded? So the Golden Phoenix clothing store was opened by Ethan and his group because they had partnered with brother Jack. They had opened the store half a year earlier than in my past life. Lily, hearing Rose's words, was furious. Old woman, are you blind? You haven't even quoted a price. How do you know we can't afford it? Rose sneered. I may not know about others, but I know all about her. She's just a country girl from the countryside. How much can she earn in a month? A pair of jeans costs dozens of dollars. How can she afford the clothes in our store? I found it amusing she thought I was still the Emily from before. Now, I could easily buy the most expensive outfit in their store, but I wouldn't buy these clothes. They would fade after less than a week of wear and deform after being soaked in water. It wasn't worth spending money on them. Let her be smug for a few more days. Once people realized the clothes in their store were defective, they wouldn't be so leisurely anymore. Lily was livid. So what if we're from the countryside? Go back 3 generations and your ancestors were also from the countryside. How do you look down on farmers? This store isn't even worthy of our presence. Rose rudely interrupted. You're just uneducated riffraff. How can you compare to my current daughter-in-law, Isabella? She's gentle and kind. This store was opened with her help. Look how well we're doing. We earn so much money every day. You must be jealous, right? Rose looked at me smugly as if expecting to see a look of shock and regret on my face. Unfortunately, she was destined to be disappointed. I absolutely didn't regret it, nor was I jealous. It was just a moldy piece of cake. Who would be jealous of that? Isabella, hearing the commotion, pulled Ethan over. Sister Emily, are you here to support us too? She asked with a smile, her face full of spring-like smugness. But the clothes here are quite expensive. They're not something you can afford. Ethan looked me up and down, his face gloomy. Emily, we're no longer on the same path. Don't come here to disturb our lives anymore. The clothes here aren't for someone like you. Isabella patted his shoulder. Don't be like that. Give Sister Emily some face. Her friend is standing right here. Lily snorted. What a piece of bad luck. Running into a green TB. Emily, let's go. We don't need to waste money on these people. Rose sneered. Get out. Don't stop us from making money. You're just a bunch of trash. As we left the store, Lily continued to curse nonstop, especially after learning that Ethan was my ex-husband. She used every vulgar word she could think of to describe him. Disgusting. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. The whole family, young and old, is despicable. Emily, how can you be so calm? I smiled gently. What's there to be angry about? I don't care about them anymore. Getting angry over them would only pollute my mood. Lily, today we're out to relax. Don't let them ruin our day. Lily looked at me intently and then burst out laughing. You're really something, Comrade Emily. Your level of enlightenment is high. You're right. We can't let these blind dogs ruin our mood. Let's go shopping. As we prepared to head to the department store, we suddenly noticed a small, inconspicuous clothing store across from the Golden Phoenix. Curious, we went in and found that although the store was small, the clothes inside weren't bad at all. There were not only jeans but also many dresses in different styles and colors, no less fashionable than the clothes at the Golden Phoenix. But compared to the bustling business of the Golden Phoenix, this store was like night and day. The store owner was a young man wearing glasses. As soon as he saw us, he warmly welcomed us. What kind of clothes are you interested in? Feel free to try anything. I asked curiously. The clothes in both stores are similar. Why is your business so much worse than theirs? The young man sighed helplessly. The problem is, although the clothes are similar, our prices are much higher. I'm not trying to cheat you. The cost of importing these clothes is already high, plus transportation fees and rent. The prices I set are just enough to break even. I don't know where the store across the street gets their goods. They're so cheap. It's exhausting. He sighed again. Take a look and see if there's anything you like. I'm planning to close the store after today. I really can't keep going. If I don't close, I won't have any money left to pay the rent. I gently touched the clothes. The quality wasn't bad at all. It would be a shame to close the store. If they could just hold on for a few more days, the Golden Phoenix wouldn't dare to continue selling. Suddenly, an idea occurred to me. Boss, don't close the store. We can cooperate. The young man looked at me sharply. Cooperate? Are you serious? I'm about to jump into the river in despair. And you're willing to cooperate with me? I stroked the soft, high-quality fabric of a floral dress in my hand and said softly, I'm serious. The quality of the clothes in your store isn't bad, and the source of the goods isn't a problem. I can invest to help you continue. We just need to redecorate the store. Remembering the exquisite decoration of the jewelry store in the shopping mall from my past life, I added, I think we should redecorate this store a bit. At first, the young man didn't believe me until he saw me open my wallet. Only then did he feel reassured. We agreed to cooperate, and after some negotiation we decided to split the profits equally. Lily, who had been standing to the side watching with wide eyes, finally reacted when she saw us drafting the contract. Wait. Don't forget about me. I want to invest too. Lily's father was the director of the Bureau of Industry and Commerce, and her mother was the deputy manager of the department store. With her joining, the business licenses and certificates for our store would become much easier to handle. It was just that she had rarely been interested in business before, so this time she wanted to participate. I raised both hands in agreement. Lily didn't add much capital, so she didn't want to take too much profit. In the end, we decided that she would take 22%, while the young man and I would each take 40%. It wasn't until we formally drafted the contract that I realized I didn't even know the store owner's name. Sorry, I was so excited earlier that I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Michael. Michael, do you live in Ho-A-Ho Alley? I asked. Michael nodded, yes. Comrade Emily, do you know me? I shook my head and then nodded. The name Michael was all too familiar to me from my past life. He had been more successful than Ethan and was his sworn enemy. Ethan had hated him to the core, but being less capable couldn't compete with him, and could only watch helplessly as Michael became a regional tycoon. I never expected that the person I had casually decided to cooperate with would turn out to be Ethan's future rival and a future tycoon. It seemed that after leaving the unlucky Ethan family, my luck had improved significantly. After finalizing the contract, the three of us began to seriously divide the work. Lily was in charge of paperwork and assisting with importing goods. I invested the capital and redecorated the store. As we energetically renovated the store, the Golden Phoenix across the street began to run into trouble. Customers who had bought clothes from their store found that the clothes couldn't last more than a few days. The colors faded after being soaked in water, and countless customers came to demand refunds. Michael, seeing this, couldn't help but sigh in relief. No wonder they could sell so cheaply. It turns out they were selling defective goods. Luckily, Emily, you advised me not to close the store. Otherwise, I would never have expected the Golden Phoenix to collapse so quickly. Seems our time to make money is coming. I gently stroked my chin. Yes, our time to make money is coming. Not long after, the Bureau of Industry and Commerce announced the decision to seal the Golden Phoenix. When the official from the Bureau arrived, Rose rolled on the ground crying and wailing, but no matter how much she cried, it couldn't change the fact that the store had to be closed. I stood in front of our newly redecorated store, coldly watching as Rose grabbed Isabella's hair and slapped her, cursing her as a jinx. If it weren't for you encouraging my son, he wouldn't have given up his stable job at the mechanical company and gone bankrupt trying to do business with that swindler, Brother Jack. The defective goods Brother Jack supplied have ruined us. A few days ago, Isabella had been all smiles, but today she could only sob and hide behind Ethan. However, it seemed that Ethan had no intention of protecting her. In fact, he even held her back to make it easier for his mother to hit her. I watched from across the street, feeling completely at ease. The unshakable love between Ethan and Isabella from my past life had become so fragile when their interests were threatened. Truly, adversity reveals true feelings. On the day the Golden Phoenix was sealed, our store, the Red Rose, officially opened for business. I had decorated the store according to the layout of the shopping mall from my past life, a style that left a deep impression on customers. Business was booming when Rose and Ethan came to the store to collect the last of their belongings. Isabella looked at the dazzling Red Rose with envy. This store is so beautiful. Our second store must not lose to them. Ethan's face was dark, and he didn't say a word. Rose snorted. A jinx like you still wants to get rich? We've even spent our coffin money. If you dare to mention business again, I'll break your neck. Isabella, humiliated in front of everyone, looked like she was about to cry. Rose was about to scold her further when she suddenly saw me standing at the entrance of the store, welcoming customers. She walked over and sneered. I didn't expect you to come here to work as a salesperson. Aren't you afraid of scaring the customers away? Lily, standing next to me, immediately fired back. Isn't this the group of swindlers who just had to close their store? You can't even take care of your own affairs, yet you have time to come here and mock others. Rose sneered. So what if we had to close our store? Even if we closed, we were still the owners. Unlike you, poor trash, who can only work for others your whole lives. Lily burst out laughing. Work for others? Haha. Open your dog eyes wide and see clearly. Emily and I are the owners of the store. The Red Rose belongs to us. 3 voices of shock rang out simultaneously. Ethan and Isabella both stared at me in disbelief. Ethan stammered, Emily, you're really the owner of this store? I nodded calmly. Yes, this store is mine. Isabella's sharp voice rang out. How is that possible? Even the Golden Phoenix, which I opened with Ethan, wasn't as successful as this. How could you, a country girl, own such a store? I smiled gently. Perhaps it's because I've never looked down on others. Isabella's face immediately turned pale. Ethan stared at me in awe, as if he couldn't understand how I, a divorced woman, could have achieved so much. It was as if I had been reborn. I looked at his miserable figure and smiled faintly. The person I had once devoted myself to was now begging me to return. How ironic. A month later, Lily and I went to New York to start university. During our college years, we continued to do business with Michael. We established a furniture company, as housing was one of the basic human needs. Apart from real estate, the furniture business was one of the most prosperous industries. The success of the Red Rose was the best proof. I had already contacted us to help them decorate their shops. This was our next business opportunity. As I held the bright red college acceptance letter in my hand, I excitedly discussed the company's future plans with Lily and Michael. Ethan suddenly pushed his paralyzed parents in front of me. His eyes were red. Emily, I was wrong. Can you come back to me? I was stunned. Before I could respond, Rose began to cry. Emily, I know you're the only good girl. Isabella is just a spoiled brat. She doesn't know how to do housework or take care of others. Now that your father and I are like this, she can't even cook. I've already driven her away. Come home with me. Since you left, the Ethan family has been declining. You're a lucky star. Please come back and take care of us. I only recognize you as the Ethan family's daughter-in-law. Ethan also looked at me sincerely. Emily, you're the only one I love. Please come back to me. I was so disgusted by this family's shamelessness that I laughed. Get lost. I'm not coming back to be your free nanny. Rose glared at me with her triangular eyes. How do you talk to me like that? Emily, a divorced woman will have a hard time finding a good man, especially a country girl like you with no education or culture. Even if you have some money, people will still look down on you. Our family doesn't despise you, so don't put on airs. Hurry back and take care of us. I coldly held up my acceptance letter to Fawn University. Take a look. I'm now a college student and the owner of the Red Rose. I have both money and education. I don't need you to not despise me. You want me to come back and be a rockin' horse? Dream on. Finally, Ethan could only push his parents away in defeat. He couldn't understand how I, a divorced woman, could have achieved so much. It was as if I had been reborn. I watched his pitiful figure retreat and smiled faintly. The person I had once devoted myself to was now begging me to return. How ironic. A month later, under the golden sunlight, Lily and I went to New York to start university. During our college years, we continued to do business with Michael. We established a furniture company and entered the real estate market. Our profits grew and our company expanded across the country. As for Ethan, I heard that he later found Isabella and brought her back. After all, his parents were bedridden, and finding another wife wouldn't be easy. Ethan and Isabella no longer had the energy to start a business. Taking care of 2 bedridden patients had exhausted them. They no longer had the strength to pursue their careers. As for me, with the help of the times and my partners Lily and Michael, I became a tycoon at the dawn of the new millennium. I finally became a national tycoon. On the same day, Michael officially proposed to me. I looked at the huge diamond ring on his hand and gently shook my head. He was a good man, but I didn't want to get married. Being a wealthy single woman wasn't bad. Why should I bind myself to a marriage? In this life, I just wanted to live my life well.